Welcome to Spirit Call. I'm your host, Jeni, and this is the podcast where I share all about my experiences as a psychic, medium, tarot reader, numerologist, and Kundalini yoga teacher. Find all of the information at my website, jeniduranis.com, but for now, enjoy the show. Hi everyone. It's been just about a month since I released my last episode, covering my experiences with a fraudulent so-called physical medium. If you're just finding this podcast now, I highly recommend that you go back to episode 22, titled Exposing the Fraudulent So-Called Physical Medium. From there, listen to episode 23, and then episodes 29 and 30. That will get you right up to date with everything that's happened so far. In the last month, I've had so much happen that it's really hard for me to piece it all together in a timeline for you. And a lot of the information that I've received, I'm not going to share publicly at this time because it's disturbing, it's juicy, it is something that borders on attacking the person rather than the harm that this person is doing in the healing and mediumship world. So I'm going to sit on that information for a little while. It is connected. I do feel that it speaks to the personality type of the person that we're dealing with here, but I would like to wait and see where that goes. I was interviewed for a podcast episode on the Big Seance podcast with Patrick Keller. Shout out to Patrick. That was such a great interview. You're amazing. I love your show. Please go over there and listen to that episode as well. Episode 254, titled Calling Out Fraudulent Physical Mediumship. In the last couple weeks, somebody made a post on Facebook just notifying her local mediums and spiritual friends that the fraud was going to be making his way back to America in July of 2024. That post got a lot of action. She stated that he has past evidence of being a fraud. She linked the videos, and she also stated that the authorities have been notified. Shortly after that post was put up, there was another post that was sent to me by one of the hosts of this fraud, stating that the UK government had made changes to travel which would affect his travel for many months to come, and that all of his events would be cancelled, which meant all of his American events over the summer of 2024 would be cancelled. This was a celebratory moment for many because it shows that he is scared. And I just want to point out to you that the UK government did not make any changes. He simply just does not have a work visa to be touring the world and doing healings and seances in all these different countries. So please do not think that that is true. Please do not allow people to lie to you any longer. Get your money back and go somewhere else with your precious time and energy. So this really was a celebratory moment because I can sleep a little bit better knowing that there are less people in the world that will be a victim of this crime. Since then, I've had some attacks, and that's okay because it is to be expected when you are leaving a community with very strong beliefs in something that is not common. It's not mainstream. The physical mediumship community is sort of underground, and the whole vibe around it is that it's to be protected, that we want to protect spirit and the hard work that they're doing. But I know that that is not true in this case. And so I've continued to speak up, like I have said, to protect future victims. My goal is not to convert people that already believe in him, but to protect future people from wasting their time, money, energy, and opening their hearts to this kind of nonsense. My podcast, as you may know, reached people all over the world. And he has following and supporters in many different countries. One country that he has a lot of support in is Switzerland. And there is an organization there that hosts a lot of different people to come and bring their teachings. When you look at their website, there's an impressive list of well-known, world-renowned spiritual teachers that have visited there or worked with them online. And this fraud is among them for some strange reason. And when I look at the list of these people, I see someone who doesn't fit. I see someone who it baffles me that he's on this list. But I also understand the mind games and the deceit that goes into creating a belief that he is legit and that what he's doing is truly the work of spirit. But when you go on their website, I think it's really interesting because it shows the upcoming events that he has. And there are also testimonials that sitters who have gone to his seances have written up after a seance to be included as sort of just like a testimonial and a way to help other people to understand what's going on in these seances in Switzerland. So I just want to read one of them to you here. This one is from February of 2024, so before I released my first podcast episode in April. It says this: "The seances were wonderful again. I was touched and tickled on both legs by delicate, slender hands, and a little later I was pulled into the middle of the room with my chair. The chair was then tilted far back, and I was touched on the shoulders at the same time. I was able to observe healing treatments and contacts between several participants and their loved ones close up. Hands and arms materialized again, stroking and hugging their relatives. 5 stones were materialized, which, I could see it very clearly, simply fell from the palm of the hand pointing downwards onto the floor. A spirit went from sitter to sitter and showed his hand, in which he was holding one of the small glowing balls. Jimmy explained a lot to us again, answered our questions, and as always we laughed a lot. The seances are so wonderfully uncomplicated, educational, natural, cheerful, and spectacular. And then I received a very special gift. I was one of the 4 participants who also attended the seance on February 15th, 2024. In which the large head materialized and protruded from the cabinet. 2 of us were given permission to touch the face. We were to proceed very carefully and only use our index and middle fingers. The sight of the head had touched me very much in both seances. I saw it so clearly that I could see very many wrinkles. The eyes, ears, and mouth very clearly. It looked totally human, and everything was perfectly formed. But the head was larger than a normal head, and the neck was strangely deformed. Although the face showed almost no facial expressions, it was totally expressive. It nodded in the affirmative to a question, and you could see its tongue moving several times. Every time I saw it, I was overcome by a very deep feeling of affection and gratitude. And now I am allowed to touch it. Since William's head, that's what Jimmy called the spirit, looked so human, I expected the face to feel like that too. But it was unexpectedly quite hard and rough. The feel is hard to describe, like a mixture of plastic and paper mache. After the seance, I pondered what it reminded me of most. An avocado came to mind, but the comparison isn't really appropriate. It also looked as if the face was a bit oily, but it didn't feel oily. Wow! You can only believe something like that if you've seen it yourself, and even then, it's unbelievable. A big thank you to all the spirits for these 2 unforgettable evenings. If you have listened to my first podcast, you'll remember that I stated that the neck was shaped in a way that was very strange to me, and that I simply am aware that William, the head, is a mask, a plastic mask. When I read this testimonial from one of his seances that took place before I even went to the conference, I felt it in my whole body that she's literally describing it as a mask, but believes that it is still an ectoplasmic head materialized by a spirit. And people, this is just how far people will go to hold on to their beliefs. This is how far into the mind these beliefs are ingrained. They want to believe to the point that they're literally describing reality as something unexplainable. It felt like plastic. The neck was weird. It looked shiny. She said oily. That's because it's plastic. So I would ask you, why would spirit make it feel like plastic if it was ectoplasm? That would be something that they would have to go out of their way to do. And why would the head feel like plastic, but the arm feels like skin and solid like a human being, and it's warm to the touch? Why wouldn't the head also be like the arm? What intelligence from spirit causes them to materialize these limbs and body parts, but make them feel different and look different? And why does William have to look exactly the same every time he comes? Interesting questions. Perhaps those involved will take some time to think about them. But like I said, I'm trying to help future people. So the following day, there was another seance at the same place in Switzerland. And it's titled, "A Big Head Looks Out of the Slot in the Cabinet." It reads, "The following day, the regular Valentine's Day seance took place. Again, 19 people came full of anticipation with roses and Valentine's Day cards. The introduction and explanations about the cards and roses were the same as the previous day." So I assume that because they were doing a Valentine's Day seance, this is a thing. You hear of like Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas, where the sitters bring like gifts and things to give to the spirit world. And then when the lights come on, they're like all over the place and they've been touched and moved. And, you know, we're supposed to believe that the spirits came and received the gifts, but of course they can't bring them back to the spirit world with them. Even though they can bring us gifts, like apports, they can't bring things back. So I think that's what this is talking about here. Anyway, in the dark phase, Jimmy soon announced himself with a loud bang. He asked the participants what they wanted, and again, a long list was created. That sounds familiar to me. The spirit team then checked the energy in the room, and Jimmy declared that the energy was good enough to repeat the new experiment from the previous day. They decided to use red light for this experiment because they thought it would be easier to get good photos. Jimmy explained that blue light is actually better for producing this phenomena. With the red light very dim, we were first asked to chat with each other, and soon we heard the zipper being opened. So I want to point out this part that Jimmy will often say, talk amongst yourselves. And I find that to be very interesting because it's like, essentially distract yourselves. something's going to happen, talk amongst yourselves. Usually you're supposed to be singing, and the singing is what builds the energy for the spirit world to create the phenomena. But Jimmy comes through and says, talk amongst yourselves. And in the seances that I was in, he said that too. And I didn't talk to anyone. I sat and listened while everyone else was talking. So again, these are things that if we pay attention to how our minds are being distracted and diverted, just like a magician would do, it's easy to step out of that and see what's right in front of you. But when you're trusting it, you are just going along with it. And so it's easier for the shitty magician to do tricks on you. So anyway, from where I was sitting, I could clearly see a head sticking out of the cabinet. The lower part of a rather young man with a fine stubble was clearly visible. I saw the mouth and nose. The eyes looked as if a black elastic bandage had been wrapped around the head, and the upper part of the head also looked black. The head pulled back. The zipper was closed. When we were allowed to turn the red light up a little bit brighter, another head appeared, the same as the day before. It was again that big, hairless head, full of wrinkles and folds. After a short while, he pulled back, and I was asked to bring the camera in. At the next red light exposure, I was allowed to photograph the head. After the first shot, I realized I had forgotten to ask if I could take more photos. So I asked if I could take another shot and expected to hear a response from Jimmy in the cabinet. Instead, the friendly head nodded several times to express his agreement. His head kindly came very close to me, which unfortunately was not ideal for image sharpness. But I pressed the shutter anyway. The head was visible for more than a minute and seemed to be looking at those present with great interest. Later, Jimmy said, "We can call the big man William." This testimonial goes on to talk about the arm that came in and out of the cabinet and how people got to touch it, and how they were asked to check that he was still tied to the chair, and he was, and then he wasn't, and then he was again. And so, Spirit explained, just like in the seances I've been to, that they were playing with the perception of the person feeling them, and that he was indeed in the chair, just that they were no longer able to feel him. And it's essentially the same seances. It's the same thing over and over again. But what I'm really focusing on here is William, and the fact that photographs were taken of him, just like in the seance that I was in Albany in April of 2024. And the woman that's taken those photographs has given them to the fraud. He hasn't released them publicly yet. And I've asked her if I could see them. I saw them in person in April, and I would like to point out that I am in one of them, so you can see me and the cabinet and the head. But she would like to respect him and not release the photos publicly until he has. And so it might be quite some time, or it may never happen that he releases them publicly, because why would he want to have proof that this head is an ectoplasmic head, right? There was, just for the record, there was no instructions given during that seance from so-called Spirit not to release those photos publicly. There was nothing about what the photographer could and could not do with them. So I just want to state that here, that didn't happen. And later on, if someone says it did, then we know that that's also a lie. So at the end of this testimonial, in bold letters, it says, "The photos taken that evening can be viewed at the Basel Psi Association. At the request of the spirit team and the fraud, they may not be photographed or distributed digitally at this time. So this is saying that if you want to see the photos, you essentially have to go to Switzerland to see them. Because I don't know why. I don't know why Spirit would allow us to take photos, but then keep us from sharing them as proof and validation that William is actually an ectoplasmic head. And you know, we can see the details. And I want to point out to you that a few people have said that they've also seen William in different lighting conditions, and that they saw a vapor, that they saw him to be kind of like a flowing, glowing, white, vaporous head. And I don't know why some people saw that. I think that, again, it comes down to our expectations of what we're being told to see. Maybe those people have had other experiences that they also considered to be ectoplasmic heads or masks or arms or whatever. And this is where it's down to the interpretation of the person in the seance room to decide what they're witnessing based off of the expectations that they have. But when you take those expectations away, it's much easier to just see what's right in front of you. So it sounds like in this testimonial, again, it validates that other people have seen what I've seen, a very real-ish looking head that isn't like flowy and vaporous. It's wrinkly and feels like plastic and looks kind of oily. To that person's description, I just saw like plastic, like gross skin-colored plastic. So, so you have to go to Switzerland to see these photos. That's the where it's at. But this week I opened my email to an email that is titled Photos of William. And it says, "Hi Jeni, I am sending you this email anonymously. Attached are photos of William. I am giving them to you as a gift for your courage. These were photographed on February 15th, 2024, in a seance at the Basel Psi Association in Switzerland. The photos can be viewed there on request." When I open these photos and look at them, now to be clear, they are photos of photos. So the photos were printed out. If you want to see them, you have to go there. This person was able to take photos of the printed out photos. But I think you can understand that with technology that we have today, cell phones can take pretty good photos of other photographs. What I am now looking at is 3 different images of William the wrinkly mask, and it is surrounded by black, and his head is red because of the red light, and I can see clearly the wrinkly detail that fits very closely to, you guessed it, the Halloween mask that I shared 3 months ago that I found on Amazon. That's right. The Halloween mask that I shared on Amazon very closely resembles these images of the so-called ectoplasmic head that the sitter also described as feeling like plastic. Do I need to say any more? Do I need to continue to point out lies, inconsistencies, deceit, mind games? Do I need to really fill in the timeline of how he recovered from the 2016 video to be able to show up in America and make thousands of dollars off of people who truly want to believe in something magical and are looking for their loved ones in a seance room? If I need to continue on, I will, because I am trying to protect future victims of this crime. But please, go look at the photos that I'm going to share on the website. Look at the photo of the mask. Go click on all of the links that I am providing for you. Read these testimonials for yourself. Take a step back, take a breath, and ask yourself if this seems possible. My goal here is to educate all working psychic mediums to research the world of physical mediumship as it stands today in 2024, to learn about how your clients, friends, and family might end up in a strange room, darkened, with people who are convincing them that their loved ones might materialize, only to have a Halloween mask show up as proof of the afterlife. I'm asking you to spread the word that this is happening in our industry today. Physical mediumship is not a thing of the past. There are many people traveling the world offering seances, and thousands upon thousands of people giving their money to these individuals to be tricked. Do I believe that physical mediumship is possible? Not in the way that it's being portrayed today. Perhaps not in the way that it has ever been portrayed. What I know to be true is that humans are searchers and seekers of the truth and of something bigger and unexplained about the reason that we're all here in the first place, about how this incarnation works, about what the afterlife is really like, and where do our loved ones go when they leave the physical body. I'll tell you where they're not going. To these seance rooms with this person. Please, please, please educate yourself and help put this to a stop. To anyone that wants to use this testimonial as a way to prove that William is real by speaking about the half face of a younger male with stubble on his chin with a black elastic wrapped around the top of the head, I think it's pretty easy to understand what was going on there. And I'm not going to try to spell that out for you. And to anyone who would like to attack me for releasing this content the way that I have, please know that, again, this is not for you. This is for protection of vulnerable people, grieving people, and mediumship and the spirit world as a whole. You may remember Chris Connolly from one of the previous episodes. He has created a Facebook page called the Physical Mediumship Transparency Initiative. I highly recommend anyone who would like to continue down the journey of developing physical mediumship or going to seances to visit that Facebook page and read the mission statement and get involved with helping to change the way that physical mediumship is being done in the world today. It's a simple request to either have light in the seance at all times, or if that is not possible, we are asking hosts of physical mediumship seances to have a camera in the room during the darkened periods of the seance so that anyone who attends can view it afterwards to make sure that everything that they witnessed was genuine. And so Chris has been contacting certain hosts of these physical mediums and asking them if they will adhere to this request. And to date, nobody has taken it upon themselves to do this. And they state that they are going to leave it up to the spirit world to determine and dictate what can and can't be done in the seance rooms. So I think we all know what that means. And if you are going to a seance, I strongly suggest that you ask if there will be a camera in the room and why not, or if the seance will be conducted in light the whole time. And that's how you'll know if this is a seance worth going to. All right, everyone, that's it for this episode. I have added the leaked photos from Switzerland to the website page that I have created to keep all of this together. You can go to this link in the show notes and compare the images from Switzerland to the mask that I found on Amazon. And I suspect that you'll be seeing a lot more photos of William in the near future. So yeah, thanks so much for your support, everyone. Hopefully this is all I need to say about this, but like I said, if I need to continue, I will. I will forever speak on behalf of Spirit, because I know that our loved ones in Spirit are watching over us at every single moment of every single day. And they're trying to get our attention. And just imagine the frustration of trying to get our attention. And this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. So, lessons learned. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Who knows where things will go in the future. Bye for now.